everybody, and welcome to another episode of Developing Palates. This is the team review recap for the prototype Super Unknown pre-release cigar. On this review was Jiunn Liu and myself. Say hey, Jiunn.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. So this is an interesting cigar in the fact that it's still pre-release. Well, I'm not sure what that really means in regards to it just hasn't been released to the public, I guess. But the background on this cigar is that it's coming from a brand new company. This is their first cigar, and they're not releasing much info on the cigar except for that it came from the Dominican Republic. No info on the blend or what factory it came out of or who the blender was. But it's a similar concept to the Lost and Found thing where these are cigars were sitting in somebody's aging room. These guys came across it. They decided that they wanted to buy them and kind of release them as their cigar. So similar concept to Lost and Found, guys. So we can just hop right into the review, I guess. So how was the pre-light experience for you?
So in terms of the actual cigar look, it's it's fairly unknown because there's this what I could only describe as a thin piece of aluminum foil that covers the cigar.
Yeah, I called it aluminum foil, like it used to be on the Wrigley gum thing. That's what I kind of labeled it as.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly what. In retrospect, that's exactly what it is. So it covers like a huge chunk of the cigar, probably like 85%.
Yeah.
So once you kind of slide that thing off, which easily slides off, which is a good thing as compared to if there was like all sorts of like pegged in or glue on there, that would have been a complete pain in the ass to do. So the actual cigar look, it's not much of a looker. So I was hoping that this cigar is one of those where you don't judge it by its books, by its covers.
Yeah.
So pretty light brown wrapper. There's not much oil content to it. In terms of the actual cigar feel, the foot of my cigar was really loose to the point where I felt like, I wonder if this is going to affect the rate of the burn and the draw as well. And then the actual cigar nosing experience, I thought the wrapper smelled great. It had a lot of floral flower notes for me. And mixing that with that barnyard and cedar, and I absolutely love that. But all in all, the pre-light experience was pretty. It was not much to talk about. Nothing noteworthy about it. So
sure, yeah. For me, it was similar to you. A dull light brown, very uniform in color though. No variations at all. Seams were really tight, almost invisible when you'd have to really look at it to see where the seams are at. There was some veins on it, and the wrapper was a little wrinkled in places. Single cap, which is interesting.
Yeah, I wanted to get back to that part after you're done. By the way,
sure. I got an aroma off of the wrapper that I think you describe in cigars fairly often, but I usually never experience it, and that's cardboard. That's what I got from the wrapper on this. But from the foot, I got like a musty tobacco. So kind of thinking that, not knowing like really how long these cigars have been sitting around or what the age of the tobacco is, that kind of tends to fall in for me in regards to that, that kind of concept. But nothing super great. Pre-light draw, similar mustiness, and like a fair amount of pepper on my lips. But that was it. I mean, it was, like you said, nothing special about the cigar in regards to the way it looked or anything like that. I just did a light probing of it, and it felt nice. The foot was a little bit softer than the rest of the cigar, but nothing that really shocked me or thought was going to cause an issue there.
So going back to the cap, I've never seen a premium long filler cigar have a single cap. And not only just a single cap, but mine was a crappy single cap, to the point where I typically use my Zycar guillotine cutter. So I put that away and I straight up, I guess I got surgical with it, and I got my Zycar scissors, because I could get a lot more of a precise, smaller cut with that. So even with that cut, I mean, I probably only cut like gosh, like half a centimeter or so off of it. And I had to really watch out where I'm cutting it so the cigar doesn't unravel on me.
Right.
Um, because I mean, honestly, going into this cigar and kind of knowing the fact that it's just one of those that they found in the Asian room somewhere and they just kind of picked up. Um, I already have kind of a preconceived notions of it going, oh, great. This could be another like, or whatever the heck, like swollen cock wannabe or some crap like that, right?
Right.
So, but nonetheless, I mean, that's the whole point of the experience. It's to smoke it, and that's the majority of it for me. So,
Hmm. Okay. So then how about the flavor experience for you? How'd that go?
mm, I thought that the flavor experience was fairly um, linear in the sense of I didn't get much in terms of transitions or major transitions or complexity builds.
Hmm.
I thought that the core flavors was pretty good. So, got quite a bit of a hay that kind of like that sugar and cream that you kind of find in that you put in coffee. I got a lot of bready notes, and then I got a pretty significant amount of charred wood in
Okay.
the entire first, second, and third. And so basically within those flavors, it kind of bounced back and forth. Like some of it got a little more stronger, some of it got a little more amplified, but the core flavors stayed entirely the same for me.
Hmm.
And I'm going to talk about within this grouping and their flavors because it has associated with burn, but it did actually affect the flavor. So I don't know about yours, but my burn rate was incredibly fast. Like
Hmm.
I felt like I took maybe like 4 or 5 draws in the first third, and I was like, "Oh shit! Now we got to move on to the second third's review."
Right.
Um, so and typically within something, what is this like a
4 by 50.
4 by 50? Usually at the rate that I smoke, I could milk these guys easily into the 45 to 55 minute mark.
Hmm.
And I smoked this in total probably like 25 minutes. So
Okay.
with that said, I was averaging roughly 8 to 9 minutes per third.
Right. That's quick.
And that's incredibly fast. And that's, and I wasn't rushing it. I was taking my time and,
Hmm.
you know, doing everything. So that was all good in that sense. But the burn rate was super fast. And then on top of that, at the last third, the cigar heated up quite a bit for me. So every draw that I took, I still tasted the same core flavors, but you had that heat, literally like the temperature heat of the
Right.
smoke, and it made it uncomfortable to smoke.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, for me, I had a bit of a different experience. I lit it up and like my tongue just got like shocked in flavor.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you ever poured like a packet of like Sweet and Low or Equal like right on your tongue, and it just got like you get like this weird sensation, and you don't know what it is until like a couple seconds later, and then you figure out that it's sweetness. Like
Uh,
that's the experience I had with this cigar. It's like almost like if you stick your hand in like this bucket of like ice water for a second, you don't know if your hands like freezing or burning. Because you just can't. You take a couple seconds to determine the temperature. It was the similar thing with the flavor. Like I didn't know what was hitting my tongue, and then after a few seconds, that's what it related to me is like an intense artificial sweetness, but not like
huh.
not like an infused cigar. Like it was just that weird sensation on the tongue.
Yeah, almost like a synthetic,
Yeah,
overly sweet flavor,
exactly.
kind of like much like they have in those like the Splenda type stuff, the
Right.
sweet and lows, the
Yep.
equals, and all that thing,
Exactly.
all that stuff.
So I got that.
That's
Yeah, I got
interesting.
that right on when it started out, but that kind of faded back a little bit as the third was going on. But I was getting the mustiness on the retrohale that I got in the pre-light draw, and then as the third went along, I got some oak in there, and the sweetness, kind of kept fading as I got to the towards the end, and then near the end, I started getting some like pine flavor. And when I'm talking about pine flavor, I'm not talking like the smell of like pine sol or anything like that. I'm talking
Hmm.
about like if you just like slice the bark off of a pine tree and then you stuck your tongue on the wood, not on the bark, like
Mm-hmm.
almost like that kind of a flavor.
Hmm.
So that was interesting,
Interesting.
and the strength was in between mild medium for me, like right in that middle ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Likewise.
yeah. So then getting into the second third, um, that's right when the ash dropped for me, and it was a bit of a significant flavor change in that a lot of that sweetness dropped off, and the mustiness really ramped up for me. So flavor and on retrohale, a lot of mustiness. But then as the cigar got along, ash grew longer again, got a little bit more oak, and that pine flavor like really stuck around, and it was kind of like the finish for most of that third. And the strengths remained the same, mild, medium, nut, and no big changes in regards to that. But when I hit the final third, I had the same experience you did in regards to the heat.
Mm-hmm.
It just really like ramped up like instantly. It was just out of nowhere. It was just like I don't know. It was somebody turned
Yeah.
on a flamethrower and it was just going.
Totally.
And that had a huge
It's like
effect.
almost like someone just turned a heater on. I'm like,
Exactly.
dude, turn it down. What the hell is this all of a sudden?
Yeah, and that really affected the flavor for me. So it was,
Yeah.
the pine really got accentuated at that point, and then some bitterness was there, and I got a really like strong mineral finish
Mm.
at that point as well. And then as the third went on, I don't know if the heat died down or I just got a little more used to it. But I seemed to get like a little mintiness experience there. I don't know whether that was just kind of like how my tongue was adapting or my palate was adapting to the heat and the flavors. But the strength definitely jumped up to a medium there, I would say, in that final third along with the heat. You're trying to decipher, heat versus nicotine, but it's still a strength. The heat is still a strength in the way I classify it. So, if you're not into that, it might be a big blast for you there. So that's kind of how the flavors went for me.
No.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna touch a little bit upon your sweetness comment, but yeah, I would tell you finish.
Oh, I'm done. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So you do bring up a good point in terms of kind of having that sweet and low sort of a sweetness, denoting that. So when I was having this cigar, like off the bat, I was thinking, wow, this is really sweet. Like to the point where I was thinking, the only thing I could really remember smoking that was this sweet was something that has a lot of dominance in the Brazilian Matafina wrappers.
Okay.
But those actually make me feel so sweet that it's almost sickening to smoke.
Right.
And I could totally see that borderlining that within this cigar.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because the more so I actually smoked this cigar earlier today and reviewed it in the written format earlier today as well. But when I was smoking it, I keep thinking to myself, well, the flavors in general make sense. There's really nothing off-putting about it. There's nothing fantastic about it. There's nothing poor about it. It makes sense in all together, in unison. But I think a lot of me saying that was because I was thinking, well, because it was such a short 25-minute smoke, I wasn't really expecting much. Like given the 25 minutes, I was okay with just having these core simple flavors.
Sure.
So, but
yeah. Okay.
Anyways.
So how was the performance in regards to burn and draw for you?
The burn in terms of ash and ash marks was great. I felt like the actual ash marks and the ash was very sturdy. It was pretty solid. Mm-hmm. Every time I ashed, it was because I purposely ashed it.
Right.
And then I felt like also the burn was fairly razor sharp. Mm-hmm. So no complaints in that sector. But the part that was a big disappointment was of course the burn rate.
Right.
I almost felt like I was like, am I smoking a cigarette? Like how's this thing burning so fast right now? But that surprised me. Like it surprised me so much that I wrote it all within my notes within the first, second, and last third, and I felt like that was such a key thing that I hone in on. Yeah. And of course, the last third having the hotter burn, that was, nobody ever wants that.
Right.
In terms of draw, the draw is really loose for me.
Mm.
I mean, I guess the plus side of that is, the cigar cap in the head never created any buildup of tar and just nastiness.
Right.
Because if I would have snipped that thing again, I would have slipped right through that cap. But it was very loose for me. It's almost to the consistency of just breathing air. But this didn't affect the flavors for the first and second third, but the last third it definitely did. So all in all, burn and draw, it could have been better. It could have been a better constructed cigar.
Okay. Yeah, I think I was on the opposite side of the spectrum from you on that. For me, the burn was absolutely pretty much perfect. I mean, this would be right up there with like some of the best burning cigars I've ever had. Like you said, ash retention, excellent. Burn line, perfectly straight. No issues with that whatsoever. So I mean, and I'm not sure what more to ask from a cigar in regards to the burning. I think I smoked this in about 55 minutes. So
Oh wow!
I don't think it went as fast for me as yours went.
Oh, okay.
But I'm a really slow smoker, so maybe maybe it would have been the same. I just maybe babied it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So draw was really good as well. Just slightly looser than I prefer, but that's kind of just a nitpicky type of thing. It wasn't like super loose and anything that caused any issues. I just did a normal guillotine cut on it. I did it very shallow though, because like you said, the single cap, you just don't want to take the chance that you snip it and that whole cap comes with it and the cigar's going to unravel. So I did my first cut. It didn't open it up enough for me. So did a slight second one on it before I lit it up, and that was perfect for me. So
Nice.
really no issues there in regards to the performance. That it was definitely the highlight of the cigar. I think is the burn and the draw. So overall, what was your experience like?
I thought it was an average experience overall. So when I'm, kind of breaking it up by pre-light experience, smoking the entire cigar as well as the construction, the pre-light and the actual look of the cigar. I mean, come on, man! Like, don't wrap Wrigley gum wrapper around a cigar. Like, make a band, man.
This
Like,
is pre-release, so we don't know that they may change packaging when it gets released. But who knows about that?
True. But even if you do release this cigar, I would vote for no wrapper and just put it in a wheel of 25 or 50 and then put in that Wrigley wrapper on there. So,
okay.
And then, the actual look of the cigar, it wasn't all that great. And then the, smushy foot, not that's good. The actual flavors, the core flavors was pretty good. I actually wanted more of it. So I actually did want the cigar to burn slower so that I could taste those flavors more.
Right.
I mean, I understand that with something of this Vitola, it's often people often talk of it as a winter smoke, meaning a shorter smoke. But this is way too short for me. And then when it got hot, that was just, I mean, that was a total mood killer for me. So, I mean, all in all, I mean, what is the price point of these?
$10 a stick.
$10
so far is what they're setting it at.
I see. Not that I review cigars based upon the price point, but I will also say that this is not worth $10.
Right.
First of all, for the size of the cigar.
Yeah, for your money, you want a longer experience.
Right. Like if it's $10, I want at a minimum a Robusto.
Right.
And more importantly, given the flavors of it, I wouldn't pay that price range. But given the experience, and just it was tasty for me. I would still smoke it.
Right.
But there's no way I'd pay $10 for something like this. I'd pay something like probably in the range of like $4 or $5 for it.
Yeah.
But then again, I could go pick up a Luciani Rothschild, and it's like with California taxes and everything, that's $5.50 a stick at the local B&M.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this is an interesting concept. Pulling the cigars out of an aging room and kind of going with that, not knowing, age of the cigar that was fully rolled, age of any of the tobaccos that went into it, any of that stuff. But I always tend to think, there's a reason that it's sitting in an aging room and wasn't released. Either it all got rolled for a project and somebody didn't have enough money to finish everything up and get it released, or people didn't think it was good enough initially, and then somebody just revisits this and says, oh, you know what, I think it's a good cigar, and we'll go with it. So that's interesting concept going into it. I have the same feelings as you do. For $10, I want a longer experience. I want better flavors. But the Rothschild is a perfect example. It's a very low price cigar, very good flavor, good amount of smoking time. So it's kind of like the perfect package. So with this, the flavors were okay, not really my wheelhouse. Probably wouldn't reach back for it. Performance was fantastic, but that's not enough to carry the cigar. But I think, if you come across it and you're interested in this kind of a project, I'd say go for it. Give it a shot. These kind of came in a 3-pack. I'm not sure what they're going to look like when they actually release them. So maybe a 3-pack is like kind of the perfect package size, so you're not like going too deep on them to try them. But yeah, I'll be interested to see how it gets received when it's released, and then maybe what else they end up coming out with later on down the road, if they're going to stick with this type of concept of pulling cigars from aging rooms, or if they're going to actually kind of do one from the beginning. They source the tobacco and get it rolled and do all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. Yeah. But kind of maybe a topic to bring up in regards to this is, since you smoke a lot of Cubans and vintage Cubans as well, how would you put it on par with how you measure this cigar, which we don't really know the age of, but it's based on the concept, it should have some age on it, compared to smoking a vintage Cuban? Like, not all vintage Cubans are quick burners like this is. So I'm not sure that you can really say that it's the age of the tobacco as to why it burns so fast. So I don't know, maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like this cigar definitely tastes like it has some age on it. When I say that, I don't feel any sharpness in flavor. Certainly, I don't feel any ammonia or metallic kind of flavors, which is typically indicative of a younger cigar that hasn't went through enough time yet. So to that extent, I feel like that has some age on it. But when I were to compare it to just Habanos in general, Cuban cigars are known to be good in the smaller Vitolas and just formats in general. This pales in comparison to any Cuban cigar out there that's in the similar smaller Vitola.
Right.
There's a reason why I like Cuban tobacco so much, because first and foremost, I go for flavor and I go for depth of flavor and richness of flavor. A lot of the Cuban cigars had that, especially in the smaller Vitolas. This particular cigar for me didn't have any depth and richness of flavors at all. It almost had this funky muskiness to it that it's weird, man. Like, sometimes in non-Cuban cigars, I get this barnyardy muskiness hate that kind of within those 3 flavors just kind of like come together. And that's typically a little bit of an off-putting flavor for me. Whereas in Cuban cigars, I could describe it just the same as what I just did, but it's delicious.
Right.
Right. It's hard to describe. Like, it's almost like a richness in the minerality and the soil that the Cubans have. Like, I'm just convinced that they just have just amazing proper growing conditions. Much like how a lot of our coastal areas here in California and Central Coast especially had the best type of Pinots and had the best type of Red Zins, because the weather itself and our richness of soil, just everything is just the perfect environment to grow amazing grapes of those varietals. I think Cuba has that. And if you're talking about price point is way cheaper for Cuban cigars than this $10 that they laid on this one. So
Right.
I'm not really sure what they're trying to pull with this pre-release. We have to remember that this is pre-release,
Yeah.
so we don't know if it's going to go out to the market. But I don't understand the justifications behind, especially slapping $10 a cigar for this, which is something that is just found in the aging inventory.
Right.
Right. So, I can't even compare it. I mean, Cuban cigars in these smaller formats are way better,
Sure.
fresh or aged. I mean, I've had box codes that are 2 months old,
Mm-hmm.
and it tasted way better than this.
Right. Okay.
So,
So getting into the final scores, our scale goes from 0 to 10, with 5 being an average cigar. So your final score was 5.33. My final score was 4.13. So how do you think the scoring worked out for this cigar?
I felt like maybe I was a little too generous on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I gave a lot of leeway into the flavors because it was such a short cigar, and it almost feels like I got hit by a bus. And I didn't know I got hit by a bus. Like I got up and I was like, oh shit! Like I just smoked the cigar and I reviewed it. Right.
Yeah.
Basically, what I'm talking about is the burn rate.
Right.
It went through the transitions of each third so fast.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have time to necessarily collect my thoughts and to kind of formulate my thoughts.
Right.
Right. Because when I was actually reading this and typing up my notes, when I got into the second third is when I started really typing up my notes on my first third.
Yeah.
Because it surprised me that fast, you know. So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was a little high. I think in general, this is a runner of the middle cigar for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, for me, the flavors just kind of, they're too bright. And when I say bright, it's kind of like in your face kind of thing. And pine, really, really bright artificial sweetness, just, things that, and like you said, you don't have a lot of time for things to settle down in between the thirds to see how it kind of, evens out. So it was really quick moving on. And then when you get a big transition from like an ash dropping, then it's like, all right, now we're on to something else. But then the other stuff comes back. But just the flavors just weren't in my wheelhouse really.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wish these guys luck. I mean, you always want to see a new company succeed. So I hope that things work out with this and they can, come out with some other stuff and, get some footing beneath them and, be successfor.
Yeah, I mean, I for sure feel honored to smoke something like this as pre-release. Like, don't get me wrong, I have a lot of gratitude and for that. I mean, we definitely are the newer guys around the block in the cigar media. So to have an opportunity to smoke something like this, I feel very honored and show a lot of gratitude, no doubt. So
exactly. Yeah, and Prototype Cigar Company sent us these cigars. There's not really a lot of them floating around out there. So, like you said, we're honored to be able to smoke this cigar. So that wraps this one up. If you're just catching this recap review on YouTube, be sure to go out to our site and check out the full review, developingpalates.com. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
thank you.